Hello, everybody. Michigan State got their ass whooped. I am Ryan from the Sports Carnage podcast. I apologize about the quality of this video. Work made me send back the laptop that I used to use, which just by looking, I can tell already had a better camera. I have another laptop here, so maybe that will get figured out for next week or even maybe later today after the Michigan game. Who knows? But this is what we have to work with right now. And, nothing's really important except for what we're talking about, right? But Michigan State getting blown out by Ohio State, which many people predicted. Vegas predicted it. It was like a 19-point spread. They ended up losing by 49, I think. So I don't think Las Vegas even thought that the game would be that bad. Just an utter domination, though. And it just goes to show really how far Michigan State is away from being at the top of the Big Ten. Right? I think that was the biggest takeaway of today's game, is that it's just a massive wake-up call for not only Michigan State, maybe the rest of the Big Ten, but certainly Michigan State. They just gave Mel Tucker a contract extension, obviously. And with that contract extension, they hope that Michigan State can rise to the levels where they can be competitive with Ohio State. And today that wasn't the case. But you see just how much, room you have to make up. And obviously that is the hope with extending Coach Tucker 10 years. Yeah, I know. Facebook telling me that the frame rate is too low. I understand. Again, laptop issues. But we'll get it worked out for definitely next week, hopefully next year. But, the game was over by halftime, and obviously Michigan State's Achilles heel all year has been the pass defense, and that's what did them in. They were down 49 points at half. C.J. Stroud had 6 touchdowns and like 393 yards. They couldn't really stop the run either. I usually have the stats in front of me. They weren't needed for this game. You could just watch the game and understand that Ohio State, in every single aspect of the game, was a better team than Michigan State. And for Michigan State, Kenneth Walker got shut down early. He wasn't hurt or anything. I think they just wanted to save him. And then Jaden Reed, right before the first half ended on the kickoff return, it looked like he came up limping, and then he came out in the second half with a boot on. So I guess we'll see. Matthew says, "Go Michigan, beat Ohio State, and take Michigan's championship." Well, I'm a Michigan State fan, so I hope that doesn't happen. But if you're a Michigan fan, I can see why you would want to beat Ohio State, obviously. Eddie says, "Give Tucker a 15-year, please." I don't know if that's serious or in jest. I'm assuming he's being sarcastic. MSU isn't as good as their record. I guess you could say that, but at the same time, they won all those games. And there were definitely a couple games that they could have lost. They could have lost to Michigan, you could have lost to Indiana, and you could have lost to Nebraska. But you didn't. So, are they, if you're going to look at the 10-win teams in the country and say, Michigan State's the best, well, they don't even have 10 wins. If you're going to look at every 9-2 team in the country and say Michigan State's the best 9-win team in the country, that'll probably be a no from me. But at the same time, I don't think there's a lot of teams in the country outside of like the ones that you see in the playoff race that are very good, and I think Ohio State is one of the best, 3 teams in the country, just outside of Georgia and Alabama, and they might even be better than Alabama, honestly. So, yeah, when your pass defense is the worst in the country, teams are going to take advantage. And, it was a nightmare matchup for Michigan State, really, because Ohio State has such an effective passing offense. Really good receivers, a really good quarterback who today vaulted up to be like a significant Heisman favorite. I think at one point, even maybe right now, he's like minus 300 now, and he was plus 250 before the game or something. But just showing out on national television will obviously boost those odds for you. And again, for Michigan State, I don't think many people expected them to win. I don't think people thought it would be this ugly either. Not even really a highlight or anything positive to talk about. Keon Coleman got his first touchdown, a true freshman, so good for him. In the second half, Michigan State's only touchdown of the game. But other than that, it was, nothing to write home about. even a little bit. Coughlin came back. He missed the field goal in the first quarter, where Michigan State, it was probably their best drive outside of their touchdown drive, and then they weren't really able to get anything going outside of that. I know Peyton Thorne had a lot of tip passes, like right at the line of scrimmage. They fumbled the ball because Simmons got hit and the ball came out. So, and they got the interception at the end, but just a massive gap in talent, in skill level, execution, all of that. Ohio State blitzed them early, and then Michigan State was just never able to recover from the game, even being down 14-0 and then marching all the way back, and then having that Jaden Reed, which probably should have been a fumble, but they called it incomplete on third down. And then again, Coughlin missed the field goal. Ohio State goes on to score again and again and again. And at that point, there was just no reason to, no way you can come back, and no reason to run Kenneth Walker out there. I think Walker probably only had 5 or 6 carries. And it's because MSU, not only were they down, basically 50 points, but they got down so quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was 21-0, 28-0. And while you want to stick to your game plan, and the game plan certainly, wanted to be run the ball, control the clock, all of that, when you're down 4 touchdowns, that's just not what's going to, get you back in it. And then Ohio State kept scoring and kept pouring it on to where it just didn't make any sense to try and run the football. And then they turned Michigan State one-dimensional. And Michigan State, chose to keep Kenneth Walker fresh for the rest of the year. Greg says Ohio State will win the college football playoff. I mean, they very well might. All right, C.J. Stroud is a very good quarterback. And again, I don't think as good as Georgia's defense is, I don't think they have the... I just don't know that you can keep up with Ohio State's receivers for 60 minutes, no matter who you have playing cornerback, because they're just, they're kind of just that good. Probably 3 first-round picks. They have a really good running back, quarterback, again, who's going to be a first-round pick. And it's just a lot to keep up with in a rule book that, favors the offense, and it favors scoring points. It's not to say Georgia can't beat them, because if you get pressure on Ohio State, it'll look way different than what it looked like today against Michigan State. Not only does Georgia obviously have better secondary players where guys won't be running free so much, but they should be able to get some more pressure on Stroud. Even though Ohio State has a really good offensive line, Georgia is just across the board on their defense. They're really good. So that would be a matchup that I'd be excited to see, and I hope it's not like the first game. I hope it's not the 1-4 game. How much is Tucker getting? So he signed 10 years. Well, I guess it's not signed yet, but what's been reported is 10 years for $95 million. How that's broken down, we really don't know. Is it 9.5 every year for 10 years, or does it start off small and go up? Does it start off big and then go down? We don't really know that part, but 10 years and $95 million, which, if you want to know, kind of what we think about the extension, we did a podcast on it, the Sports Carnage podcast, which is linked here. I think it's 2 episodes ago. But no, actually last episode, sorry, for Mel Tucker's extension. Unfortunately, the podcast was released right before the numbers were announced. So all that we knew was that he was getting an extension. We didn't know how long. We didn't know for how much money. So that part is missing. It's obviously been well reported on now. But I think most of our thoughts are the same. Oh, F your podcast biased. Well, I don't think our podcast is biased. We typically have 2 Michigan State fans on and 2 Michigan fans, although sometimes the Michigan State fans can outnumber them 3-1, just depending on who's on. But we had a back and forth. We had people who were for the extension and people who were against the extension, and I thought both sides of the argument were presented pretty well. I'm for it. I think Michigan State, they're making a bet, right? Could it not work out? Obviously, it could not work out, but they're making a bet on Mel Tucker. They think Mel Tucker's their guy, and they're showing that they're serious about football and about the football program. and today's outcome doesn't change my thoughts on that at all, because I didn't think that we had a really big chance to win anyway. So those are my thoughts on it. You're going to see a lot of jokes on it if you stay on social media a lot. It's just the way it goes. It's the low hanging fruit. He just got announced, and then you go out and you lose by 50 points. So said it's worth the risk, especially when he's trucking over Jimmy. I think it's worth the risk because I think he's a good coach, but what this contract extension should signify is that now they're trying to make the leap over their entire goal, just beating Michigan. Like, if he's just going to go undefeated against Michigan and he's here for 10 years or whatever, like, that's really cool, but at the same time, just beating Michigan shouldn't be enough to earn you a contract extension of this magnitude, in my opinion. If you're going to earn this contract extension and, quote unquote, live up to the contract, then I think you should be competing for more than just being the best team in the state. You should be competing for the Big Ten, especially with the expanded playoffs. You should make multiple playoffs if they're going to 12 teams, like I think was just, reported by Dan Patrick the other day, if I'm not mistaken. But even if they go to 8, Michigan State, with this extension, that should be the expectation for Michigan State and Mel Tucker, is that they're making multiple playoffs, again, especially with the expansion, and not just, you beat Michigan, so that's all we care about. All right? I think this contract extension allows Michigan State and should hopefully force some of the fans to evolve beyond, hey, let's just beat Michigan, because we've been beating Michigan for a long time now, and it's led to some great success, but it's also led to some years where it didn't, not that it didn't so much matter. I don't want to say that, because they still had some good years there, but there were years where they beat, most of the years they beat Michigan. It's not like they won the Big Ten or they, went to the Rose Bowl every year or something like that. So I just kind of want to keep that into perspective, that beating Michigan is great, and it's definitely preferred than losing. But if you're getting 10 years, $95 million, you should have a higher expectation than just beating them. He needs time to recruit his own players. Yeah, absolutely, Nolan. I think once Mel gets his guys in here, we're going to see kind of more of what they want to run. I saw Scotty Hazelton, the defensive coordinator, get some heat today, and Jay Johnson's a guy who, even I've been critical of at times, but we do have to realize that, again, these aren't their players, right? They're the leftovers from what D'Antonio brought in, and they are players that, transfers, yeah, they pick the transfers, but these are also guys who, for whatever reason, weren't good enough to start at some of these other schools. So you bring in a guy, like Ronald Williams from Alabama, and if he was, as good as his recruiting profile was, then he probably would have stayed at Alabama. But they bring him here, and he's had some moments, but he's also struggled this year. So I think when they bring in their own guys and they start to coach them up, then we'll be able to see a better reflection of what this coaching staff's talent level and coaching ability actually is. Oh, he's talking about Michigan. The refs helped Dale win that game. Man, are you still on that? It was 3 weeks ago. Just stop crying. Jason says, no matter what, it's been a good year. Great turnaround from last couple of years. Yeah, especially if you're looking at the expectation at the beginning of the year. And Michigan State still has a chance to win 11 games with a bowl win next week against Penn State, and then the week after. So it'd be an excellent year, to get 11 wins for Michigan State, to make a New Year's Six bowl if they end up beating Penn State. And so I think there still is quite a bit on the line, especially for the seniors. Next week is Senior Day at home against Penn State. And for Michigan State, these are seniors who haven't really seen too much success on the field. If they were part of the 2017 team, they won 10 games that year. But in 2018 they won 7 games. In 2019 they won 7 games, and last year they won 2 games. So I think next year, because if you're a senior, you're probably playing quite a bit. I think it's a good opportunity for them to kind of make their stamp on this program And if you're not a team that wins the Big Ten or wins a Rose Bowl or something like that, you can at least be part of the team that helped bring, Michigan State football back. And I think that is a big deal to those guys. And I certainly expect a better effort next week than we had this week. No, Harry says he doesn't care. I mean, all right, man. Whatever you say. What I saw today, the Heisman frontrunner quit on his team today. I don't agree with that at all. I think if you asked Kenneth Walker to carry the ball 50 times, he absolutely would have. I just think they're trying to keep him fresh because they know everything that they do have on the line still. This game and then the bowl game that Michigan State is in. But I think if it was up to Kenneth Walker, he would have been on the field for every single snap, basically. And, I mean, when he was on the field, he didn't have that many carries, so you can't really break it down. But he had 2 good runs. I think it was, 5 carries maybe for 24 yards or 4 carries or something like that for 24 yards. It's a good average. And, like, he had 2 carries. He had 2 pretty good runs where he was making people miss and hitting the hole. That's about, half the runs that he had all game. So I don't think he mailed it in at all. I think it was more of a coaching decision to not have him on the field, especially after last week when it looked like he'd roll over on his ankle or something. And then today, again, when he got the ball, he played well, but Michigan State just got down so much there wasn't any need to run the ball. I don't know that he's not playing in that bowl game. Is he the number 1 running back in the class? Probably. I've seen that. I've also seen him anywhere between like 2 and 3. I don't know though, man. There's a chance that they get, matched up with like Wake Forest in the bowl game. So would he want to stick it to his old team? He might. I wouldn't guarantee that he doesn't. I mean, I wouldn't guarantee it either way, right? I wouldn't say he's definitely playing in the bowl game, and I wouldn't say he's definitely not. But I think he's a guy that, especially if he like wins the Doak Walker Award, I don't know. I think he just want to put a finishing touch on the season. He said Mel Tucker earned that raise today. He's lucky Walker transferred there, or MSU would be a 14-win team. I mean, he gave Walker the option to transfer there. So, like, you could, I don't know. I feel like you could say that about every program, right? Like, if Ohio State didn't have all their good players, what would they be? But as a coach, you have to be able to get those good players there. And they've won some games where Kenneth Walker, didn't do very well. Obviously, Kenneth Walker is the best player on the team, and he's helped them tremendously, turn the season into something different than a lot of people thought that the season would be. But, I don't know. I think they'd probably win a little bit more than 4 games. But again, give him credit and his staff credit for identifying Kenneth Walker as the guy that they wanted to get, because there's a whole lot of running backs in the transfer portal. And, they identified clearly the best one to be on their team, and then utilized him in a way that shot up his NFL draft stock to where, like, Brady's saying, he might be the running back 1 in this draft class. So what's next for Michigan State, and what do they still have to play for? Again, I think 11 wins for a lot of these guys is a pretty big deal in college football, and they have the chance to do that, right? Like we mentioned, they have the game against Penn State, senior day, so it's of course at home and a chance to get the double-digit wins there. So I expect them to get up for that game. And then with the bowl game, if they beat Penn State, they're certainly going to a New Year's Six bowl. Probably won't be the Rose Bowl. My guess would be that would go to Michigan if they lose to Ohio State, because the Rose Bowl would pick, obviously, the bigger brand name in Michigan. And why wouldn't you? I guess if I was on the Rose Bowl committee, that's what I would do. I would honestly say forget the Pac-12 if Oregon wins out. And pick probably Michigan and Notre Dame for the Rose Bowl if I was on the committee, because you're going to get the most eyes. That'd be by far the most watched game outside of any of the college football playoff games, and might even surpass one of the semifinals, honestly, just because of how big that those fan bases are. But with the chance to go to a New Year's Six bowl game, and a chance for Michigan State to again, cement an 11-win season. There's only been so many in Michigan State football history. I think that the team, I think they understand that there's still a lot to play for, even if today knocked them out of the Big Ten conversation and knocked them out of the college football playoff conversation. I still think they have a lot to play for moving forward. But it looks all right. So it looks like your guys' questions are done. So we will probably join you back after the Michigan game. Nice short video here. Hopefully I can get some of this video stuff worked out. But if you tuned in late and want to watch the rest, you can watch it on the Sports Carnage YouTube channel, which I will be uploading this to probably in about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, you can listen to our podcast where we do talk about the Mel Tucker extension, and we talk about a whole bunch of other things just going on in sports, mostly local. But that is the Sports Carnage podcast. You can find that on Spotify, on Podbean, and on Apple Podcast. And you guys can also follow us on social media, on Facebook and on Twitter. And I think that's about it. If you're watching this on YouTube afterward, all of those links will be down in the description for you. Very easy for you to make that move there. So thank you guys for tuning in, and hope you join us for the Michigan game, and then probably the Lions game tomorrow. Thank you.